Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 421 of the Stacey West podcast. I'm your host tonight, Ben, and I'm joined by Chris. How are you doing, mate? You keeping well?
I'm fine. Yeah, fine. After yesterday, fine. Had a nice day today.
Good.
Yeah, had a really nice day today, actually. Met an old mate for a coffee this morning. Me and the good lady went out for a bite to eat. Came back, and for the last 4 hours, and Steph is not into video games, by the way, but the both of us have been playing a video game called Stray, where you can take control of a cat, and it's been great fun. A nice little distraction.
I love that game so much. It's beautiful as well. Like the environments and everything are amazing. Like I played it at launch, and it's just so good. I do
fun
not.
With it.
Yeah, I am not. I'm a little bit envious, to be honest, because I know Rach doesn't like games, and occasionally she'll watch me playing one. But that's a game that I imagine she'll probably watch me playing and give me some helpful advice on. I get.
Yeah, to be honest, we were playing it together, but I would not have got anywhere near as far if it wasn't for Steph kind of pointing out, what about that too? What about going down there? What about clicking that button? I just kind of run through and missed half of it. But yeah, it was quite a nice distraction this afternoon. But you've been up to something that you found equally as entertaining, didn't you say earlier?
We were just chatting off air, and I said to Chris that I've had a busy day today because we've been we're getting our kitchen started this week, so we've had to empty everything out of the kitchen, ready for it to all be taken out and demolished, basically. But I did the thing that I think most people will probably see as some sort of therapy, and I went to the tip twice. Took a load of stuff. Yeah. Just filled the car up, went to the tip, got rid of it all. And I love going to the tip because it's just really therapeutic. You fill your car up with crap you don't need anymore. You get there, it's like there's usually a very grumpy man there, but he wasn't there today. But yeah, you kind of go and you just go, right, I don't need this anymore, so I'm just going to throw it in a big skip. Done. That's it. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's brilliant. I love it. I love the tip. I love the tip so much.
Well, I'm pleased you've had a nice time.
Yes, but I've been very tired now. I actually fell asleep in front of the telly earlier as well. So yeah,
that's what Sunday afternoons are for.
Yeah, I suppose. But yeah, it feels like it could be an interesting discussion a little bit later on, because we will be talking about Rotherham, but there's a couple of bits that we need to get out of the way. First and foremost, a couple of bits of news from the club earlier in the week. The first one is that the Burton game at home is being moved. So instead of it being on the 24th of January, it is now an 8 p.m. kickoff on Thursday, the 22nd of January. Now, this is one of those where you look at it, you go, oh, why the hell have we got it on a Thursday night? And I don't think we've actually had that many that have been moved to a weird time slot, I think, since the new Sky deal came in. But this is one of those, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We all knew that there was a risk that the weekend officially starts on a Thursday 8 now as part of the new Sky deal. Everyone got a few extra quid, but I don't like it. I don't think any football fan likes a league match taking place at 8 o'clock on a Thursday evening, do they? But it's due to the TV deal. It was allowing. I think it was something to do with each team is going to get X amount more from Sky from the TV deal, but also they're going to be on TV a certain number of times over the course of the season in order to squeeze that in for every single team in the EFL. It was necessary to basically give an extra kickoff time each week. I just don't like it very much. I understand why it's there, but I don't like it. And but we'll have to suck it up, won't we, and get on with it. But I think I saw Gary's article when he released this, and I forget the actual dates, but it was something along the lines of we've only had a couple of 3 p.m. home kickoffs in the period of 3 or 4 months, which is a bit silly.
Yeah, so we've had one 3 p.m. kickoff in 2 months with 3 in place until February the 14th. So between November and February, we will be able to see the Imps at home at Sincil Bank at 3 p.m. a grand total of 3 times. It doesn't feel right.
Doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right at all. And we don't want this to be an excuse, but there is something about a 3 o'clock kickoff at Sincil Bank. Well, I'm sure any home team will say this, and the fact that we've had so few home matches at all recently, I do think that does start to take its toll a little bit. So it certainly doesn't help, but we can't do anything about it. It's I suppose, a necessary evil.
Yeah, and for want of a better phrase, it's you make the deal with the devil, and you've got to have these kind of things happen, and unfortunately, one of those things is a 7 p.m. Thursday night kickoff against Burton Albion, which I'm sure that will mean a very low away attendance, possibly a low overall attendance as well. But yeah, I don't think I've been to a game on a Thursday night at Sincil Bank, actually. I don't think I've been to a game ever on a Thursday night.
There might have been one or two like over Christmas time where like Boxing Day happens to fall on a Thursday, but as an actual regular season league match, no, I can't remember one ever.
Yeah, well, I mean, Boxing Day games are normally at 3 p.m. anyway, so I think it'd be the first time I'll go to a game on a Thursday night. But yeah, but I'll tell you what is going to happen on Saturday at 3 p.m., Chris. Doncaster. The Doncaster game is most definitely on. The 5 p.m. deadline has passed today. We were maybe a little bit premature on Wednesday's podcast because I was under the impression it was 5 days before the start of the international window, but it was actually 5 days before the fixture itself. So yeah, we kind of assumed on Wednesday that it was going to be going ahead. But yeah, there was still that little bit of jeopardy. But that has been removed. We have a home game next Saturday, Chris. It is a good feeling, isn't it?
Hallelujah. Yeah, it's about time. It's about time. Yeah, we did. Well, I think you actually queried it, didn't you, with Jez on Thursday night at the evening with. And just to clarify, how does it all actually work? And didn't he say that if you're the home team, it's 5 days from the fixture, and if you're the away team, it's 8 or something along those lines, which is why we had to call it off for the away fixture against Bradford 8 days before, but we had a little bit of leeway this time. But I'm really pleased it's on for multiple reasons. The main one being we've just finally got a home game on, because it feels like such a long time since we had a home game, and so many away games takes its toll, doesn't it? And I can't wait to get back next Saturday. It'll make such a difference, I think, just actually having a game at home.
Yeah, 100%. It's just so important, and I think you mentioned it, and it's been something that, well, actually we'll talk about in just a second, but it was mentioned on Thursday evening as well. Like we want to be able to get the players at home, have a decent atmosphere. I mean, it's against Doncaster as well. They're going to probably bring a decent following. Fingers crossed, this can maybe start to put this little bit of I say a little bit, but a poor run of form behind us, and we can maybe just start to turn the corner a little bit. But we will get onto that shortly. But you've mentioned it, so we might as well come onto it. Me and you, or you and I, whichever way around it is. If it's whatever way the sentence would continue if you are an individual rather than the group. Yeah, you and I, there we go, went to the Jez event on the Jez transfer window talk on Thursday night. Just for full transparency, Chris and I, we paid for our tickets. We went there as paying punters, and just another absolutely fascinating evening. There was a lot of stuff that was kind of, this stays in the room sort of conversations, which, we're happy to abide by, because it's, some of that some of the stuff was really, really eye-opening about just how the transfer window works in general, and also how our transfer window works. And the way that some of the players were, some of the timings in particular, the way that it all lined up, it was just, if you get the chance to go to one of these in the future and you have even the slightest sort of idea in your head that they don't do anything, they just sit there and wait for the transfer window and wait for the deadline day to come, and then they just panic. It's like, just go along to one of these and you'll see Jez basically gave us a timeline of, this was the transfer window, we knew we would need to do X, Y, and Z. Then the Jovan transfer came along and it gave us a little bit to panic about, but also a little bit more to play with, because obviously we had a bit of an influx of money and a slightly higher profile with a couple of things as well. It was just absolutely fascinating, wasn't it, Chris?
It was, yeah. It's always really good value, but I'm totally with you. The timeline was really interesting, and the explanation behind the decisions that were made and when they were made and why they were made at that time. It's almost like there's lots of plates spinning all at once. And I think he mentioned the question that's earlier on in the window: if we make this decision now, does that stop us from making a good decision later in the window, and vice versa? And yeah, it's meticulously planned and backup plans, because not everything came off. I think it's worth, we didn't get our first choice target for every single position, because I don't think any club does. But it was just really interesting to hear. Again, you mentioned there's a lot of stuff that was, said there in confidence to the 40 odd people that were in the room. So we're not going to go and break that confidence now. But I'm with you. If you've got an interest in just learning a little bit more around what actually goes on, it's really, really insightful. It just adds some real interesting context to all of the decisions, and it allows you to have an informed opinion. And hey, don't get me wrong, you might have come out of that meeting thinking, I still don't like the signings, but at least it allows you to make that opinion and have that opinion off the back of more information ultimately. But I think, in all honesty, I think it's quite difficult to leave that meeting not feeling very positive about the football club's position in the bigger picture, particularly. But just really good. Really recommend going for the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was quite a lot of honesty as well. It wasn't just a closed forum. Jez didn't just stand there and talk at everybody for 2 and a bit hours, which he needed to get, I think, everything done by as close to 8:30 as he could, because we found out that Jez has started watching the Celebrity Traitors, so we all needed to get back in time for that final.
Yeah, and we left at 10 o'clock, by the way, so he didn't do it at all.
Okay. So okay, well, after the quote unquote main bit, Jez went through the presentation that he did at the fans forum again. So Chris stayed for that and watched the Ivan story again, but I got home because I'd not had my tea and I did want to watch the Celebrity Traitors final. So, but yeah, no, just absolutely. I think I keep saying this to people, and I don't mean this in a derogatory term to anybody, but the people that need to see those presentations are the people that absolutely won't go.
Maybe so.
And yeah, I just think that, if there is any doubt in how hard everybody works for the club and to kind of make sure that things happen, yeah, just go. I mean, there was some news in there about players that we've missed in this window, some players that we've missed in previous windows, that maybe have gone on to bigger things. I mean, there was an example of a player that we basically had in the building, and then we got outbid by another club, and that player is now in the Premier League. So it's like, right, okay, well, yeah, everything is all kind of there. We've got the right processes in place, but ultimately, I hate to say it, we are still Little Lincoln City. We still will struggle to get players to come here if there's a a bigger club that comes in. But there we go. So that was that one. So I think it's probably time, Chris, that we we start talking about Rotherham as much as we probably don't want to, because I use the words off air that you infected me with your positivity.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah, and I think seeing them on Tuesday night and then having the conversations with you on the pod on Wednesday, it just made me think that we could go down and, and get something from there. We did pick up that that they are decent in the first 20. They've not conceded a goal in the first 20 minutes all season so far. That didn't change yesterday. And yeah, we started the game, and I thought maybe the first 5-10 minutes, I thought, oh, okay, we're looking okay, but not our typical selves. And then that proved to be the case for the rest of the 90 minutes, Chris.
Yeah, I suppose there's quite a lot to talk about here, and if I don't want to be that knobhead that comes on and says, no, actually, you're all wrong. We were brilliant, because we weren't brilliant. We're not going to pretend that we were, but I think it's always useful to add balance and context, isn't it? I suppose the first place to start when it comes to that is the team selection, would you say?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I think it was 5 changes, if I'm right in thinking. So obviously, we had the lineup was Wickens, Hamer, Jackson, Bradley, Reach, McGrandles, Bayliss, Street, Draper, Ring, and Abikwu. I can understand a lot of the sort of crying out at the moment for for James Collins to start, because James Collins will score goals for people, for you. But it's a topic that I do want to touch on after we've sort of dissected the game.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel that at the minute, it doesn't matter who you put up top. We've got 1 goal in 5 league games. Nobody's scoring.
Yeah, and that is a concern now, and I think it's fair to say that. Now, we mentioned in the preview to this game that the underlying numbers were pretty positive, and it can only go on for so long that they won't kind of even out. However, we also mentioned on Wednesday, didn't we, that if you continue to not score and make lots of chances, so if you are playing well but not scoring, confidence can start to ebb away. Fan sentiment starts to be a little bit less positive. Atmosphere becomes a little bit less supportive, as is human nature. That's not just us. And then performance levels start to drop. Then that's the concern if that's the beginning. And statistically, we were better than Rotherham yesterday, not by much. And also, there's a lot of context there and a lot of game state. But the reality is, we didn't create enough chances to justify scoring a goal. So regardless of whether in previous matches we've deserved to score more, statistically we didn't deserve to score 1 yesterday. We had 2 or 3 half chances, but nothing really clinical, nothing really kind of that was seen as a big clear cut chance, I wouldn't say. Maybe Rob Street possibly in the first half. We'll touch on that. But ultimately we can't escape the fact it is getting to be a concern now, and maybe the fact we played a few games away from home is a little bit to do with that. But yeah, there were some concerning signs yesterday. It's not kind of rip up the game plan and start again for me, but there's a little bit of concern setting in terms of the fact that we can't ignore the simple fact we scored 1 goal in 5 games. Like, that can't be anything other than a little bit of a problem, can it?
No, and it's one of those where, I think I saw a comment yesterday that said, how do we stop Erling Haaland scoring, stick him in our front line? It's one of those where I don't know what it is, but it almost feels like when we get 1, we'll start to score quite a few. It's almost like, I don't know if it might even be a psychological thing. I did see there was actually quite an interesting question in the Discord around, is it a coincidence that we've kind of hit this run where we're not scoring at the same time that we've also drastically dropped our yellow card count? Is there a lack of aggression in the side? And that's something, causality and all the rest of it. It's not being caused by that, I don't think, but it's certainly something that you think, oh, okay, well, are people just looking into stuff too much? But we're getting away from the game specifically here.
Yeah, let's just touch on the lineup again before we move into the first part of the game. Because were you happy with the lineup, or were you surprised by anything? How did you feel about it after there were a few changes, albeit some enforced?
Well, I was. I mean, we spoke on Wednesday, and it was near enough what I think we kind of thought between us, with the exception of Justin Abikwu, and that's probably about it. Because I think you called Tom Hamer at right back on Wednesday. I said we maybe could have started with Dexter Lembakisa. Obviously, at the time, we didn't know that Ben House was going to be out, so I think I was thinking, right, okay, yeah, we can play Ben House in the 10. Freddie Draper came in, played in that 10 role, and I thought we would have seen James Collins start yesterday. That was the only thing for me where I think, yeah, that could have been my only change. But other than that, I was pretty happy with it. Eric Ring and Rob Street out wide. I thought we kind of identified that, didn't we? That we said, that's probably going to be where the game could be won. And yeah, I say aside from Abikwu up top, who I think deserves a bit of a run, but maybe not starting at the expense of James Collins.
Yeah, like Abikwu was really good against Bradford, but he didn't have a good game yesterday. I'm going to be honest, but it's very rare for us to be too blunt about it. But like statistically, anyone can look it up if they want to and look at the metrics. He had a poor game, and I think that probably didn't help us because it meant that the ball didn't stick up top, and then we got caught on the counter attack really regularly throughout the game, which we're going to touch on a little bit. In terms of lineup, though, I think the big issue was for me was who started up top. I had no issue with it pre-match, by the way, with Abikwu starting. I wasn't not against Abikwu at all. But we mentioned Ben House in the 10. Both of us predicted that, didn't we, on Wednesday before we knew that he was out for the game. And Fred then went in there, as he has done recently. And I like Fred. I actually predicted him to start, didn't I? But start up top with House for various reasons. But with House not available, Marlon, of course, not available. Yes, we have Tom Bayliss that can play in there, but then we have all three of our fit central midfielders starting and no other options to change it other than Barbrook, who's hardly kicked a ball for us. So it made sense that with House out, that Draper started there, but I think it made us a bit one-dimensional going forward. But yeah, the big challenge for me, I think, tactically was the fact well, two things really. Rotherham, their setup was really clever, and it played against our weaknesses, and we'll touch on that in a moment. But also, when it did go forward for us, it didn't stick quite as often as we'd hope it to. Sadly, Abikwu, his performance in terms of his duels wasn't particularly good. Only won one duel out of the whole in the whole time he was on the pitch. So and that was an aerial duel. Didn't win any on the ground. So yeah, it was a tough afternoon for him playing against three centre backs. But you mentioned that Rotherham haven't conceded in the first 20 minutes. They arguably should have, shouldn't they?
Yeah. So I was going to say, obviously, we say that Justin Abikwu had a poor game by the metrics, but he did have the ball in the back of the net.
He did.
Now, I've seen it argued that it should have been given. I will probably caveat what we're about to say with the fact that everybody else stopped. So, it was one of those, where it was like, okay, he's gone through, he's put the ball in the back of the net, he's been given offside, but everybody else has seen it or heard the whistle and he's not. So there is a caveat to it, but yeah, Abikwu goes through. And looking back at the replay, it's very, very tight. It is super, super tight. To my eye, I think he is just onside. And we've had our, the conversation in our group chat and in the Discord. Yeah, VAR gives that goal. I think VAR genuinely gives that goal. And that's not us saying VAR has to come into our division because we don't want it at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, if that goal is if that happens in the Premier League, that goal is given. but unfortunately, it is too tight to call. And I think, as frustrating as it is, you can kind of not excuse it, but you can understand why the linesman put his flag up, because if he's turning his head, then he's offside. Like if he's watching the ball as opposed to the back of the back of the defensive line, it's I think if the shoe was on the other foot, we would probably be saying it was too tight to call and that it should have been given. But yeah, it was a disappointing moment, I think, in an afternoon filled with.
It was because Rotherham started the brighter. They had a through ball which Wickens really came out really well, actually, didn't it? Because it looked like a bit of a difficult moment and intercepted the ball, and then the shot goes over the bar. And then it wasn't long after that Justin went through and scored. But yeah, you're right. There are a couple of caveats on the replay. I'm with you. I genuinely think it's onside, and if I'm a home fan, I think we've got away with one. If I'm a Rotherham fan there, however, it was an early flag, so everyone stops. You imagine a big group probably knows that the flag's gone up and there's a bit of pressure off. So it's the sort of finish that if that's like in the middle of a game and there's players around you, it's a hell of a finish. But it's the sort of finish maybe that you just think, I'm going to volley this because it doesn't really matter because the pressure's off anyway, but it's good practice. And yeah, like it'd be unfair because everyone did stop. And yeah, again, VAR, I'm with you. I think they would have said it was allowed, but usually I would say, we take those. You take them on the chin because we don't want VAR in League One. However, I wouldn't have minded it on Saturday just as a one-off because I think it's because of what happens after it. Because if that goes in, the whole context of the game is really, really different. But ultimately, it's a moment that we shouldn't need to rely on. There's a lot of time left in the game from that point. You'd like to think we've got loads of ways of getting in, loads of ways of causing Rotherham problems. But before we did any of that, they caused us some.
Yeah, and I think this is where I think they'd obviously identified a weakness that I don't think we even probably knew that we had, and that was a shot from distance. The ball it comes to James, well, quite a way out, takes two touches, doesn't really get closed down all that much, lets fly, and it's a bit of a low-driven shot. And I'll be honest with you, at first, I thought it had gone wide because I thought, Wickens has got that covered. And then, no, the net's rippled. It's gone in. It does bounce just in front of George Wickens, but I think even as a member of the GKU, Chris, I think you'd have to say he should be doing a bit better there.
Yeah, he'd expect to save that. I don't think anyone can argue that, sadly. A couple of things before that, though, because it was a ball in from the right-hand side initially that Conor McGrandles cuts out, and just a little bit of miscommunication between Ring and Reach, allowing Rotherham to win the second ball. And they did that a lot yesterday, a lot more than I'd expect them to be honest. It worked it to Gore, and then it, of course, as you mentioned, out to Reece James. One touch. Fred on replay does actually do what you should do in that situation, which he approaches the ball to force James wide. So yeah, okay, he doesn't throw himself at the ball, but you don't need to dive in when the ball is 30 yards out. You want to show it to a not very dangerous area of the pitch. He shows him wide, and my thoughts whilst watching that whole phase of play was we were a little bit slow to engage, a little mix up here and there, but I don't mind him having the ball that far out. Yeah, go on, fine, shoot, no problem at all. And I'm with you. I thought it had gone wide until it hadn't. And the angle that we had, because as we were looking at the play, we were in the stand kind of bottom left-hand side. So the angle was really difficult to see whether Wickens should have got there or not. But yeah, on replay, it's a really awkward bounce just before him. And he'd expect to save it, but it was an awkward one. Posting in. It's unfortunate because, again, looking at the statistics here, and this is relevant for later in the game, is that shot has 0.03 xg, and if it's on target, it goes up to 0.08, which if we're looking at that as an average over a season, you think, well, that's not going to go in very often, like that's almost zero. But what the statistics literally say is that, well, 8 times out of 100, it does go in, and it did. And that happens. That will happen throughout the season. It just does. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. It's not impossible. And at that point, of course, we're then a goal down, which happens. That will happen in games, whether it's unlikely or not. It did happen, and then we're up against it, aren't we? Then it's right. Okay, we're a goal down. Let's see how we react to this. Let's see if we can get ourselves back into the game. And before Rotherham's second goal, as much as we had a few half opportunities, I think we reacted okay. We had a lot of territory. You look at this possession stats, we were really high for possession, which is rare. More touches in the opposition box, more shots from inside the area, all the stuff that you'd normally measure as this is all decent. But Rotherham had a goal to defend. And we've argued that against us, or the other way around at the start of the season, when we've scored early, we've had low possession, we haven't had that many shots, we haven't had a huge number of touches in the opposition box. And we've said on this podcast, that's absolutely fine, though, because we're a goal up. The game state impacts those stats. So is it true that from that point we were very, very strong, inverted commas here, the better team? Statistically, yeah. But I think there's this huge context there in terms of game state that Rotherham had a goal to defend. And also, they specifically set up tactically to catch us out on the counter-attack, which they did numerous times. Sam Nombe was basically, he was part of a front two for Rotherham in their 3-5-2, but he drifted over to our left-hand side, like almost touchline left-hand side. And basically, as Reach was going forward to join the attack, Rotherham's out ball every single time was just a big channel ball for him to run after in a foot race against Sonny Bradley. As good a defender as Sonny Bradley is, he's not quick. But that's exactly why they did that. And there was 4 or 5 times where that tactic worked. And well done, fair play. Like, it worked. They I would say outsmarted us in that perspective. Partly maybe because it didn't stick long enough up top for us, allowing the game to become transitional. But even when we're not at our best going forward, I think we're normally pretty solid. I think all of us can be quite comfortable and confident that we're pretty solid. And I'll be honest, just watching the game without looking at any of the numbers, I didn't feel that we were that solid yesterday, which was a bit of a concern during the game. Yeah,
agreed. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from yesterday. And I think I said away at Bradford, there was a couple of moments where maybe it didn't feel like we were as defensively solid as maybe I think we've become accustomed to. I think that might have just been a couple of wayward kicks from George Wickens that kind of put it out for a throw in quite close to the goal and everything else. But I don't know if this is just me looking at it with hindsight, but maybe that kind of playing into my mind and thinking, I didn't feel that confident yesterday in the back four, which is a rarity. It is a massive rarity because, like you say, we've had really good, really solid defensive performances all season. And I mean, truth be told, it's difficult to say, oh yeah, we played well defensively when we've conceded 3 goals, even though those 2 of those 3 goals are freak occurrences that you're not going to see too many of in a season. Should we talk about the second goal, or
just before that on the defensive element? We still defended our box all right. It was more how the ball got near our box and how often it did and how quickly it went from defence to attack for Rotherham, and we didn't seem to have the rest defence, so the kind of our defensive structure behind the ball when we're in possession to then deal with those quick turnovers. That was a little concerning. I still think when the ball went into our box, we won a lot of headers and clearances and things, but yeah, I just felt less comfortable than I normally do, and there's no numbers to really describe that. It was just a feeling.
It's the eye test,
but it sounds like that was a feeling that's reciprocated by yourself as well. But yeah, then the second goal on about the half an hour mark, wasn't it?
According to stats, 31 minutes. And this is where I think the first of the controversies of the afternoon kind of read its head. Well, second if you count in the offside, but I'm not as frothy about the offside as I think some people are. But this one, however, it's first off, it's a clever corner. Martha's on the edge of the box, He's completely unmarked. He's in acres of space. The corner gets drifted across to him and manages to bring it down. Couple of touches, great shot, goes past Wickens. I think Wickens just about gets a glove to it, and it goes in. And when you watch it, you think that's a well-worked goal. It's frustrating that he's been left on his own on the edge of the box, and you can see. I think there was probably 4 or 5 players charging him down, and I think at that point, it's not a word that I've used that much to describe our, anybody in our team, but I think there was a bit of panic in that situation. Just seeing that many people run to him and going, "Oh crap, we need to do something," and he lets fly with a shot. But the controversy is that when you watch that replay back, there are 3 Rotherham players stood in an offside position. One of those players, in Sam Nombe, is stood directly in front of George Wickens when that shot comes in. He even moves out of the way of the ball as it comes past him. And it goes in. Now, it's rare that you see them given, but that's offside.
It is, yeah. It is. And I don't want this to kind of be us just being bitter and
it's
being
not.
a little bit kind of throwing our toys out the pram and kind of moaning at the referee and saying it's all his fault. It's going to feel a little bit like that, I think, for the next couple of minutes. But let's just caveat that again, is that we weren't at our best yesterday, but we didn't deserve to lose 3-0. That really does flatter Rotherham. Couple of things, though. Number one, well-worked corner. Clearly done their research, because Rotherham know that we normally try and really restrict space in our box. It's more often than not, we do have every single player inside the box, and we allow often to have a player on the edge, and then we close the ball down when it goes there. Almost no one will actually find that player with one pass. It might be a short pass and then it worked out to the edge, but then by that gives you time to then charge the ball, which we've done numerous times this season. But we almost always set up with 11 men in the box to defend the corner. And Rotherham have done their research and clearly spotted that that's something that we do in our defensive set pieces. And they've put one together, which is a really lovely pass, really well weighted, really well heighted. If that's a word. Heighted isn't a word, is it?
Flighted.
Flighted, thank you. That's the right word. And it's a really good first touch, an outstanding second touch, just to divert the ball away from one of the on-rushing defenders. And at that point, I was the opposite with you in regard to, you feel like there was panic, because I thought we've got 5 players closing the ball down here, and they were all trying to get in the way of it. It wasn't like there was half-hearted attempts. It was a genuine charge, and it's caught it brilliantly. It's gone through a gap in those 5 players, which in itself is unlikely, but it will happen. And again, 0.08 XG on target, so 8 times out of 100 that shot is attempted, it ends up in the back of the net. So again, it does happen. It's a bit unfortunate. It's happened twice in one game that those sort of things have happened, but they do happen. It's flat football. But the massive disclaimer against everything we've just said is it is offside, factually offside. Wickens does get a hand to it, but sees it so late because Sam Nombe, if he doesn't duck, it's going to hit him in the square in the face. And it's a good strike. It's well worked, but it's offside. And what's frustrating is that isn't given offside and Abiku is. If they both were or they both weren't, I think we can probably deal with that. It's the fact that it was one way and one the other. And it's also worth pointing out that, and as much as this did not directly lead to the corner, there was a phase of play before it. We had won the ball back. Jacko won the ball back cleanly, fairly, and we would have been on the counter-attack. And a free kick was given against him, not far off the edge of the box, kind of our right back sort of area, which then gave Rotherham the possession to then even have that phase of play in the first place. And it just wasn't a foul. But again, we're being a bit bitter here, to be honest. And it's a good goal. It just should have been offside. Yeah. But you know what? Even at that, and this might be the positivity that was remaining from my pre-match prediction, but at 2-0, I thought, okay, it's going to be tough now. But I didn't feel like it was game over. I thought we could still get back into this. We've got an hour left yet. We've had a couple of half opportunities. We had the ball in their box quite a lot, albeit nothing really clear cut. but we had a decent amount of territory, a few half chances going our way. It wasn't one-way traffic by any means. Either way, obviously, it's very unlikely that you're going to get anything out of the game 2-0 down. But I didn't think we were dead and buried at that point.
No, absolutely. I'm aware that we have just ticked over 40 minutes, so we're going to take a very, very quick break, and then when we come back, we will discuss the immediate aftermath of that goal, because there was some interesting stuff said by Michael Skubala following the game. So we'll pick that up the other side of a quick ad break, and we'll see you then. And of course, when I say ad break, I mean we're going to say hello to people on the YouTube. So
hello, everybody. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you for logging in.
Absolutely. It's still breaks my brain a bit, but there we go. Steve is in.
After a loss. Sorry, I interrupted you there. I'll stop talking.
That's all right. Mr. Barton is in. Says good evening. I thought he was playing snooker. He says he plays snooker on a Wednesday and Thursday now. He's too good for us. Flossie says hello from a disappointment-filled Flossie house. Devon Imp Andy's in, says evening all from a very soggy Plymouth. Steve says I think we need a home game. Good news on that one. Matt Povey is in, says evening guys. Who else is in? Ian London Imp is in. Scary wrote in his article at the end of the match, a few of our fans were shouting and swearing very loudly at Skubala. It was quite horrible and uncomfortable. 375 AF says, would sticking with a set centre pairing improve our chances at the start of the season? Wasn't it more regularly draped behind Collins? Interesting one. We'll probably pick that up in questions if we have time. Dom is in, says evening everyone. The wife is watching, so I need to be careful. Rach says evening. Kate's in, says evening, insert names of presenters here. Just wonders if you guys can present any analysis, thoughts on the downturn in form as the weather changed for a third time in a row.
I think can we just touch on it really quickly now?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's anything to do with the weather, personally. However, there is a trend appearing, isn't there? We can't deny that. But is it after a certain number of games, once teams have started to get to grips with themselves? We've had a good start in lots of these seasons, and then we've had a little bit of a wobble. But also we've said this the last 2 seasons. Some of the bigger hitters have had slow starts. Some have changed their manager, started to improve now. Everyone's had time to work out who they actually are, and have a bit of an identity, work out strength, work out weaknesses.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an element of we need to change it up more. I don't know. So is it the weather? I'd hope not, because it's a winter sport. But maybe it's at this stage of the season, once every team has had 10, 15 matches, and that kind of continuity that we had at the start of the season, and maybe some of the teams that have spent that little bit more money have had some time to bed in those new players, started to get a bit more continuity and find their kind of identity a little bit. Maybe that just closes the gap a little bit on us, and we start to fall down at this part of the season. Or maybe it's coincidence.
Yeah, probably a bit of both. So David Ladder says, evening chaps, don't think I've ever wanted to leave early before. Yesterday was a bit depressing, wasn't it? Hilariously, my daughter told me I wasn't allowed to. I've trained her well. Absolutely. Claire says, evening all. I was at the game yesterday and thankfully didn't hear any abuse aimed at Michael. Chris is in, says evening everyone. Joe Priestley's in, says evening chaps. Keith is in, evening lads and everyone. Leslie's in, podcast mum, says evening kids. Who else have we got? Malcolm is in. It says hi to all. Emily's watching, so we have both Ms. Rooks or Mrs. Rooks in the chat. Let's see. Jacob's in, says good evening, guys. Wasn't very good yesterday. Indeed not. Sue is in. Good evening, gents. Day to forget yesterday. 100% it absolutely was. And we've got a lot of comments tonight, like an absolute ton of them, which is delighting. Really, really happy to see. Richard's in, says, good evening, gentlemen. Remember the old mantra, never too high, never too low.
Absolutely right.
100%. Carl is in, says, evening, gents. And I think that's probably about the lot. Actually, a good point from Ian, says we missed our team leader yesterday. I think that's probably something we'll touch on when we come back, which will be in 3, 2, 1. And there we go. We've said hello to everybody that's watching live. It's always a pleasure. And you've listened to an advert. So let's talk about the immediate aftermath of that goal, because Michael Skubala got booked for his protests at, it seemed at the time like the fourth official. However, he had a chat on Radio Lincolnshire after the game, and he was very much of the same opinion as us that, it's offside. And according to him, and this is what was said, I don't know how accurate this actually is, Michael Skubala stated that the linesman called it as offside. So he said, offside, offside. And the referee came back to him with, nobody's appealed it, I'm not giving it. Or words to that effect.
Oh my God. Because I didn't hear the Radio Lincolnshire interview. I only heard the one on Imps Plus when I got home. So that's literally the first I've heard of that. Jesus Christ. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's what the linesman's literally there for. There's 3 players offside.
Yeah.
That's actually annoyed me even more now.
Yeah, exactly. Hell. I'm sorry. But yeah, that was the wording that was given on the radio, that the linesman had called it and the referee had said, no, nobody's appealed it, I'm not giving it.
I'm just going to stick your hand up and appeal for everything then. Well,
this then led me down a train of thought, because I think it was either last week. Was it last week? Yeah, it was the Salford game. Tendai got sent off. The first yellow card that he got was for remonstrating with the referee.
Yeah.
Now, after the game, Michael was saying, we've had conversations with referees and they've said the only person that's allowed to talk to the referees is the team captain. So people have been booked for talking to the ref or, protesting against the referee's decisions in the past. And they've said, right, okay, let's cut it out. We'll only have the captain go to the referee. So why all of a sudden you go, oh, well, no one's appealed for it, so I'm not giving it?
It's almost like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because
100%.
At the start of the season, we picked up a lot of yellow cards, as was well documented.
Yes.
And some were strange games, of course, but a lot of those yellow cards were for dissent.
Yep.
And yeah, ultimately, you can't keep having games where you're going to get bookings left, right, and centre and red cards left, right, and centre, because that's going to catch up with you, as we found out with suspensions. So, and Michael mentioned it at the time, saying part of it's probably a bit of a quirk of some of the matches being a bit weird, but also, of course, we need to rein it in on the things that are controllable. Since then, we've hardly picked up a booking actually in the league, and yeah, maybe that conscious decision to not get at the ref has actually cost us in a weird way.
Yeah.
Just don't help themselves, do they? Because that means that unless you appeal and you get in their face and then you're not going to get a decision given your way, there's not really an incentive to not do that then, is there?
No. And the thing is, and we will draw a line under this, but the last thing I'll say on it is Rotherham knew. They knew that they were offside. You look at Rafferty, when that goal goes in,
yeah,
his first instinct, instead of running off to celebrate, he looks over to the linesman. And that, to me, says, oh, we know that he's offside. We know that, I know that I'm offside. I know that Nombe's offside as well.
Second, just the final point, as much as the liner has reportedly said it's offside, he hasn't put his flag up. Just stick your flag up if it's offside. Surely that's the rule. Whatever. Ultimately, it was 2-0. It's unlucky. Yes. We were probably still in the game at that point, but obviously it's a tough ask from that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I thought at that point, okay, similar to you, I think it's an uphill struggle, but we can potentially come away with something from this game. Rob Street had the best chance for us of the game, clean through. And yeah, it's one of those where when this is your only big chance in a game, it's so easy to go, why didn't he just smack it past, why didn't he smack it to the left or the right? It's like, ultimately, it's kind of gone straight down the keeper's throat. But, when you have numerous chances throughout the whole game, it's just one of those, isn't it, Chris?
It's one of those. It was actually the only big chance for either side in the whole match.
Yeah.
But again, don't want to just touch on numbers all the time, but statistically, XG on target is 0.2. So It doesn't get scored 8 times out of 10. But ultimately, none of them, no shots have an XG of 1 because there's always that chance. So it's not the most accurate representation. It was the biggest chance of the game. It was our biggest chance of the game, but it wasn't what I would class as a big chance. It's not like a one-on-one where he's down on the keeper and there's no defenders around him, or it's 5 yards out tapping. He's hit the target. He's got in a good position. If it's 0-0, you kind of think that was a good opportunity, and then you move on. But when you're 2-0 down, you just need to make those count. I'm not going to criticise Rob for it. He got in a good position, got the shot away. Keeper's made a decent save there, but it was our biggest chance of the game. And as much as our XG adds up to 0.9, we had a few opportunities, a few decent moments, a lot of touches in the box. Nothing really dropped for us that we classed as a bigger chance than that, I wouldn't say. So it wasn't a big chance, but it was our biggest. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would have been a really good time to score as well, just before half time.
Oh, 100%. But obviously we didn't. We went in. I will be honest, I was fully expecting to see at least one change at half time. And then coming out, I think it's fair to say that I'd started to get a bit frustrated at that point, because I think, we're 2-0 down. What harm is a change going to do? I probably would have liked to have seen a shift a little bit earlier than we did. But, it ultimately didn't happen. And then the third goal came 13 minutes into the second half. Now, if the second one was controversial, in retrospect, I think the third one was probably a bit more controversial in real time. We had an incident where their goalkeeper goes down. Initially, and on the first replay, it looked like it was between a collision with 2 of his own players. But then on a different angle, Sonny Bradley has gone in as well. Keeper goes down. The ball comes back out to us on the right-hand side. The referee hasn't given anything until we gain possession of the ball, and then he blows. And you think, oh, okay, that's annoying, but we'll get a drop ball from it. But no, the referee gives a free kick.
Yeah.
There wasn't a foul in that collision. It was just, I thought, yeah, they've just gone up for it. And like I say, initially, I just thought, it's gone. He's gone into his own player. But no, the referee gives a free kick. They go up the other end and they score a decent goal. The problem is they shouldn't have had possession of the ball at that point.
Correct. Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of go back to the first thing you mentioned there in regard to changes at half time. I kind of felt, a bit of an extra impetus there would be great. But speaking to Joe at half time, he said, what would you do? Don't actually know. And there wasn't really an obvious change to make that would suddenly, there wasn't a tactical switch that I thought would be, that I thought in that real time would make a noticeable difference. There wasn't an obvious personnel switch. I've been excited by Oscar Thorne since he signed. I've liked his little flashes, but I actually thought Rob Street was playing pretty well on the right-hand side, particularly out of possession. His duels, I thought he was winning a lot of duels. He was getting in behind a few times, passing, crossing, not always perfect, but I thought he was doing a good job out there. So I thought, well, he's not going to be switched. The only other thing I thought was maybe Street up top and then Thorne on earlier, but Oscar's hardly had a kick this season in the league. Maybe that's just because I want to see him rather than because it's a realistic change. So I expected a change just because you kind of feel you're 2-0 down at half time. There's probably going to be a change, but I didn't really know what to change tactically, which maybe says its own story in that maybe we weren't doing too much wrong tactically. Who knows? Time will tell. But yeah, we had a bit of pressure, and Jacko had an opportunity, I think, a few minutes after half time. We had the ball in the box. Goalkeeper collides with his defender. He does. It is not a foul. But goalkeeper down injured, you do stop the game. It was interesting that the ref let it go for what felt like quite a long time. We then won possession of the ball back in a dangerous area. Keeper on the floor, in a heap. It wasn't a guaranteed head injury, but it might have been. Like, no one knows. It's the right thing. It is the right thing, like in terms of player safety, to stop the game at that point, as frustrating as it is. But the main point is, it's just a drop ball. It is. It's a drop ball, 15 yards outside the area. No one's going to complain at that. It's a cop-out from the ref. It's a cop-out. It's given a free kick about 15 seconds after the event actually happens. And again, it's annoying in the moment. What comes after it makes it quite infuriating, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the annoying thing is, it's actually a decent finish from the lad. You know, it's a good goal. There's a little bit of sloppiness from our perspective. You know, I think there was a missed header from Bayliss, I think, as the ball came down the field. But I mean, yeah, I was just irritated throughout the whole of yesterday afternoon. After the second goal, you know, I just thought, well, and as you said, it almost feels like nothing is going your way, and when nothing's going your way, nothing, and I mean nothing, goes your way. And it just felt like that. You know, the ball was dropping in positions where normally we would expect to see a blue shirt yesterday. There was nobody there, and it just felt so frustrating. And then for it to land and, you know, to Denzel Hall and to smash that one away, I can't take anything away from the finish. You know, again, it's a good finish. It's a good goal. I'm just annoyed that they had the possession to be in that, you know, situation. And yes, there's a lot of ground to make up from where the free kick's given to him scoring, but ultimately that passage of play shouldn't have been allowed to happen.
Yeah, that's it. And a couple of opportunities to intercept the ball before it was delivered. As you mentioned, I wouldn't say there's a definite mistake happened, but you know, duels being lost, yes. Ball comes in, and it, like you say, it's just not your day, because Conor McGrandles gets his head to the cross, the ball in to deflect it away, just so happens to land at Denzel Hall's feet. And it's a great finish. It's a really, really smart finish, really clinical. Yeah, again, really low XG chance, but it's a good finish, like it happens. And at that point, it is game over. Like, even the most hardened, most positive fan thinks, that's it then, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is.
Credit to the lads, genuine credit here. Like, they were clearly, like, no one's head went down. I think we pushed until the last minute. Everyone did their, you know, really was doing their best to get us back into the game. No one down tools. No one was showing really negative body language. There was no arguments within the squad that I could see, which you sometimes see in those moments.
Yeah.
There was an element of togetherness. Like, and I appreciate, you know, you're trying to find a silver lining there, but there is an element of a silver lining there. Like, they didn't give up. The lads didn't give up, and right until the last minute, we're trying to get themselves back into the game, even when it looked like it was impossible. So I'm gonna just to make myself feel better, really, gonna still take that element, because we've had teams in the past, albeit a few years ago now, that when we go 2-0 down, 3-0 down, there's infighting on the pitch. There's a real lack of togetherness. You know, at least we win together, and it felt like we lose together yesterday as well on the pitch. And yeah, and at least you can be proud of that. There was no no bad eggs in the team in terms of mentality or attitude.
Yeah, no, I agree. That may have been a different case. Well, maybe even a year ago, but I think we've got a decent lot at the moment. But again, I think the substitutes maybe came on a little bit late yesterday. You know, from 3-0 down, everybody can tell that the game's gone at that stage, and it was 5 minutes after the third goal went in that the subs came on. And I think we did start to push forward a bit, and you know, I think we maybe on another day could have had a goal, but it was far too much to ask, and I think it was one of those situations where you think, okay, this is where the game state conversation comes in, because they're not necessarily going to push for a fourth. They almost got a fourth, which was when it went across. I just thought, this will take the piss if it goes in, because this is not a 4-0 game at all. And yeah, I just think it everything felt a little bit too late yesterday. And unfortunately, it was coming away from the game with nothing. It was the thing is, I think we've said this, like we didn't deserve to win yesterday. We did deserve to lose that game yesterday, because I think there was a lot of stuff that was not a Lincoln City side, and certainly not a Michael Skubala Lincoln City side. But we didn't deserve to get hammered yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's probably the takeaway. Statistically, it should have been 0-0, but again, game state massively part of that. And even though it's unlikely that first goal goes in, it does still go in from time to time, and it did. And I think I'm happy to let that one go. It's one of those things. It happens in football. You're a goal down after 10 minutes, fine. Reality is, if it finished 1-0, I think we'd all kind of go, that's kind of fair. That freak goal goes in, and we probably didn't create enough to justify getting an equaliser. We didn't have a real gilt-edged, clear-cut chance. We didn't have a huge accumulation of chances, good amount of pressure and territory, but I thought Rotherham defended their box quite well, to be honest. I think they did really well to repel us. Yeah, my takeaway is really we probably deserved to lose 1-0.
Yeah.
And ultimately we lost 3-0, and that hurts. It's a little bit embarrassing, and particularly embarrassing for me after my prediction and positivity on the recent podcast and my chirpiness in my prediction before the game. That made me feel a little bit silly. But yeah, I think someone mentioned in the chat in our little halfway break when the ad break was on, just never too high, never too low. And a wise man once said, didn't he?
Indeed.
But I suppose the last thing to talk about on Rotherham just is like, what caused us to lose the game? What caused us to look a little bit second best, look a little bit different to what we've maybe come to expect? And I think there are a couple of things that do just stand out.
Is it the Tendai Dorico and Ben House shaped holes?
It's not, but I think maybe there's an element of that in terms of just setting a precedent, particularly with Ben House. By the way, Tom Hamer was man of the match yesterday. For us, not necessarily on the whole pitch, but for us, won 9 more duels than anyone else did. Got more touches in the box than anyone else, because we win lots of headers. I thought Tom Hamer was brilliant, to be honest. As well as a player can play in a 3-0 defeat, I think Tom Hamer did.
Yeah, I think he got mine and your man of the matches.
Okay, cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, if you've seen the video, I think it's only on Instagram at the moment. But yeah, if you see the video, I was quite grumpy, and it was just that was crap. Tom Hamer, why not? That was essentially it.
Aside from that, I think there's 2 things. Number one, Rotherham's tactics. I think they were good. I think how they placed their strikers to try and exploit the lack of pace in our back line, particularly on our left-hand side. Made really good sense. They got in behind a few times. They didn't lead to a goal directly, but it could have done. So that's one element. But also, I think that we didn't win as many duels as we usually do in key areas. You look at the actual numbers, we won more duels than Rotherham did, 67 to 54. But you look at the areas of the pitch where we won those, we didn't really win any. In the centre forward position, like their back 3 were dominant against our striker, and particularly Beatku before he went off. Street did win more when he was up there, but the big one is in the centre of the park, which I don't think is very us. Tom Bayliss only won 1 duel. Conor McGrandles won just 3, which is really unlike him. You look at Rotherham's midfield 3. Gore, who is more of a ball player and not really a sort of player that is there to get stuck in. He's their spare man in there a lot of the time when Fred's forward. He won 3 duels. McWilliams won 4, and Powell won 9. He also won the ball back, won second ball back 6 times, 4 interceptions, 3 tackles, had the second most touches and an assist. Joe Powell ran the game from centre midfield, really. So we didn't let it stick up top. And for whatever reason, that midfield dynamic and just didn't have that control that it usually does. And we mentioned on Wednesday, like what wins us this game is exploiting the flanks. But you can only exploit the flanks if you compete in the centre of the pitch to allow you to have the opportunity to have the ball there to then get it out wide. If you're losing the battle in the middle of the pitch, you're always going to be susceptible to the counter. You can't get the 2v1s on the flanks if you haven't got the control in the centre of the pitch to allow time to create the 2v1s. So I feel, Rotherham's tactics, fair play, well done. Midfield dynamic, they statistically outworked us. And don't mean that in terms of how hard are they trying. I just mean in terms of winning the battles, dropping on the second balls in the middle of the pitch where it counts the most. They were better than us. And it's up to Michael and the team to work out why that is. But it's not something I'm concerned about in the long run because it's normally a trait of ours. But it'd be interesting to see, was there a tactical reason why that was? Was it the dynamic of the selection of the players that are in there? Was it simply just that it was something that happened on the day? There's so many reasons that it could be. But ultimately, they are facts that Rotherham's midfield won more duels than ours did. Their defenders won significantly more than our centre forwards did. And they scored a freak goal. So that would have been enough for them to win the game, regardless of the two incidents that we're really annoyed about.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's one of those. I don't necessarily think that Rotherham Rotherham were as good as I think some of their reaction has been. I thought, thought neither team were particularly fantastic yesterday. We've just been undone. But, there we go. Right. So, I don't think there's much else to say, really, about the Rotherham game. It was just poor. It was a bad afternoon.
The best way to sum it up, you mentioned earlier, it just wasn't our day.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, it's not your day. And unfortunately, when it rains, it pours. But
can I add one little bit of context and then we can shut up about this? It
has to be little.
It is really little. Out of the top 8 teams in League One, 7 lost yesterday. So it's not just us, thankfully.
The quick and maybe angry answer to that is, well, if we go to, if we win that, we go top. So, okay, but the reaction to that is the context of we're still in the hunt. If we can win a game that we've not played well in and go top, surely that says that we're still in the hunt. Therefore, we don't need to sack the manager and sack the board and all the rest of it. It's just one of those. It was a bad day. Hopefully, we can start to put things right against Doncaster. Before that, we do have a game in the trophy. What do we, we're not going to preview it too much because we are already through. I think a draw will see us top the group. I think we can even lose by 1 goal and still top the group, which will guarantee us a home draw in the next round. But what are you thinking in terms of a starting 11 or just a general thought about the lineup, Chris? Are we thinking we'll maybe go a bit stronger than we normally would do for trophy games?
I don't think so. There's a lot to be said about winning momentum, getting some goals on the score sheet because we haven't had many recently. Do we want to put a strong team out there just to get a bit of confidence in the team? But you do that and then you've got tired legs for Saturday when you've actually got an important league game at home. I don't know if the risk is worthwhile. I think you just put all your eggs in your league basket, back your management, back your players to put a good performance in our first home game for flipping ages, and try and get back to our identity. Because I do think we've got a real identity, particularly at home. Maybe not as clear cut away from home, but at home I think we've got a real clear identity. So for me, make 11 changes, rest everyone that can be, maybe not 11, but rest everyone that you would want to start on Saturday, really, and ultimately give those players an opportunity to stake a claim, though, because there are shirts up for grabs now. There weren't, and when we were having a good run and we were winning and being, in tight games or winning convincingly, then it's difficult to change that winning team, isn't it? But now we've only scored 1 goal in 5, albeit performances haven't been too bad, albeit obviously we mentioned the most recent one wasn't perfect. But it's different now, isn't it? It's different now. Ultimately, it is a results business. Let's not forget that. Performances lead to results over a long period of time, but it is results that count. They're not going to pretend that isn't the case. So for me, you play the team on Tuesday, which gives you the best possible chance of a good result on Saturday.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm in agreement. Right, I am aware that we are touching on the live at least an hour and 10. That's probably about 5 minutes or so. So we're probably nearing the very end of the podcast. But we did have some questions on Patreon and also some in the YouTube chat tonight. So I think we'll do a quick yes or no for a couple of them, because there's one that I think is probably a bit more involved, which we will talk about on Wednesday, which revolves around why do we seem to lose more games when we have more possession. So I'm sure Chris will have a fun time with that one on Wednesday.
It's a mystery, by the way, but I'll do my best to find out.
So very, very quick answers. Do we think it's time to bench Rob Street?
No.
Fair enough. Do we think it might be time to switch his position?
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in agreement on that one. I think I referred to this in the Discord as a reverse Jovan situation. I think the club still see Rob Street as a long-term James Collins replacement. I think he's still a long-term number 9, but he's performed well when he's played out wide initially. This feels to me like the reverse of Jovan, where he was playing he's playing centrally up top, and then he's gone out wide and suddenly smashed it. I'm hoping the same can be said for Rob Street if he turns around and plays down the middle and starts to smash it there.
Statistically, our second best player yesterday. Mm-hmm. I know, like, we lost 3-0, so everyone was crap is kind of the mentality, but they weren't all crap. And Tom Hamer was good. Rob Street was the second, again statistically, but numbers don't lie. Second best player on the pitch for us. So in a poor team, he was one of the better performers. That for me is not justification for being dropped.
Absolutely. Right. So and this is a quick yes, no, yes, or yes, yes, whatever. Do Dexter, Oscar, and Ivan deserve starts after impressive cameos yesterday?
No. But I do think you'll see more of them more regularly. The only one that's a maybe would be Ivan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think, well, we won't see them make a start next Saturday anyway, because 2 of them will be on international duty. But yeah, we didn't really speak much about Oscar Thorne. I think he did well.
Yeah, I do. I think he was a bit of a bright spark in a bit of a shining light on a dark afternoon, shall we say?
Yes, absolutely. And a very quick yes or no, which we might elaborate on Wednesday. Are bogey teams a real thing, Chris?
I used to think no, but I'm starting to think yes.
Yeah, I mean
bogey kits as well.
Yeah, well, we've seen Lincoln win once in 50 odd years in at Rotherham. It's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Like, we never win at X seems to be a refrain that comes up every now and then as the seasons go on. But yeah, we'll probably dive into that a little bit more on Wednesday. But we will definitely take a look at the possession question, because, like you say, it's a bit of a mystery. But yeah, we will on Wednesday. We'll be looking back at the Barnsley game, hopefully through to the next round of the trophy. We'll also probably just be answering questions more than anything else. And then, of course, we'll be previewing the Doncaster game, which is on. We're back at Sincil Bank this next week, Chris. I'm a happy chappy in that respect. Let's not talk about all the other stuff that's maybe a bit unhappy.
Yeah, let's just look forward to finally having a home game. Get behind the team. Doncaster are beatable. Let's have a good game, good win, bit of positivity, and a lovely Saturday night out as well.
Yeah. I still need to get a ticket for that, actually. But yes, what a wonderful way to end with a little bit of positivity on what has been a bit of a dark weekend for the Imps. But, of course, we'll see you on Wednesday. Up the Imps.
Up the Imps.